Hey there, this is Beth with another YouTube Pagan Challenge video. This is number 15. Do you perform spells on a regular basis? And the answer is yes. I do perform spells on a regular basis in a variety of ways. I'd say most of the ones I do perform are mundane kind of stuff. They're not done in a proper ritual. Trying to think, how do I want to approach this? Because I'm not going to talk about what I'm doing for the most part. One of the spells I do work a lot with right now, a form of spell work I would consider, is crystal grids, and using that to be my focus for my intent, to bring what I need and what I want into my life. That is one way that I've really started using spell work, is bringing that aspect of the crystal grid into it. I do things. What do I do? I do it quite a bit, but most of it's just intent. Yeah, it's knowing what I need and putting that intent out there and really working with it. And in many ways, I'd say celebration is a strong aspect of what I use in spell work. It's like those little things that come to you, and just celebrate the hell out of them. And that celebration just keeps that energy flowing and brings more energy back in. And it's emotion and intent is what makes a spell work for the most part. If you're like, you can say all this mumbo jumbly words, and if there's no emotion and there's no intent, then you don't have a spell. You just have a bunch of pretty words. And I think that's what's so fascinating for me about ceremonial magic, is that they have all these words. There's a lot of words. Lots of words that you're all supposed to memorize. And that kind of stuff is not where I'm at, really. Never have been at that place. With the exception of, say, like group work, where all those words are taking you from separate into one kind of intent. Then you need those words to unify you. But if it's just you working on you, with whatever you work with, I don't know. It seems, aren't your own words more powerful than... But, then you have like Mass. Those words have power. I don't know. It's just how you want to work it, I guess. What works for you. But that's in a group setting, you get Mass. I don't know. I just keep trying to think when I keep spell work. Yes, I do them. I do them a lot. I think probably because most of them are just like intent and just standing there feeling it and letting it out to the universe. Sometimes it is. It's rarely for me a huge ritual, although sometimes I do want to bring more in. And I think I talked about this a little bit in the Magic with a K video, about how when I really, really, really want it to be known to me, to them, that I do a ritual. I will do it all to let them know how serious I am. But at the same time, expanding that circle from the heart and using that one is just as potent for me as doing a formal ritual. it can be done anywhere. Sometimes it's done outside. Sometimes it's done walking down the street. Sometimes it's done as the wind's blowing the energies away that you no longer need. You're letting the wind cleanse you. And really, it's the action of the intent for me that really, really brings it. Is that a spell? What's the intent? Do you have an intent? Can you feel that intent? Can you taste it? Can you know it? Can you hear it? Smell it? Breathe it? Live it? And I think that's where, like when you hear about like kind of the law of attraction stuff and affirmations like I am rich, I am an author, I am whatever. You got to know it in your heart that you are whatever that is you're saying you are. And if you don't know it in your heart and you can't actually believe your affirmation, that intent is going to fail. And I think that coming from a place of knowing an emotion, to bring intent into knowing an emotion, is where the power of spell work really comes in for me. And yeah, power, emotion, intent, knowing that you're putting it out there and knowing that it's going to come to you in some form. It may not be the form you thought it was going to show up, but it is going to show up. You just have to recognize it. And I think too, sometimes when people do spell work and intention work, and they're like, oh, it didn't work. Did it actually not work, or did you just not recognize what was there? Because I've had things come to me in hugely drastic, different ways than I thought it would happen. And it was taking that minute to step back and say, hey, wait a minute. And actually, I was working, one of them, it was because of the fairy oracle that made me go, let's take a step back and look at this. How do we think this is going to happen? Maybe we should say yes to this moment. I said yes to that moment. And that started the ball rolling on that part of my life. Because I took the step back to see that my intent was there and that my spell work was coming back to me. I just had to see that moment and take it. Which, I was able to do. And that was pretty freaking awesome. And I think that's part of the spell work part, is recognizing when your spell comes back to you and manifests. Because sometimes I think too, it's like when you put the spell out there and once it leaves you, even though you're still feeding it intention, emotion, it kind of can take on a life of its own. And it's within that life of its own that you start to see it start to go somewhere else. And I'm not saying it's going in a bad place, because most of the time they don't. They just may go in a different direction than your little mind thinks it should. And then it comes back to you and you miss it. And then you say, my spell didn't work. And I think a lot of times that's where people miss it, is in that, oh wait, it took on its own life. And it came to me, and sometimes they come in ways way better than you even imagined. So part of it is that awareness of knowing what's coming towards you, and that you have been working in your intent, and you do need to be aware. So that's kind of how I view spell work and how I use it. I probably do it every day, little mini spells of intentions and re-intenting, as it were, feeding it that energy of my emotion, my desire. Because if it's like, if you don't, kind of gotta feed them something. And I find emotion works very well. Intent is a form of food for spells. Setting with crystal grid, pulling cards for it, pulling it on, working with it in whatever way you want to work with it. Because in a way, it's like when you do spell work, you have to not really become consumed, by your spell, but you really have to buy into it. If there's no buy-in, your spell's going to fizzle, and you won't even have to worry about missing it. It'll just kind of, as if you just got to know it. You got to kind of flow, grow, and know, and just be aware it can happen, that it is real, and that it's working in your life, and those strands are bringing all of it into you. So, don't think you just go, oh yeah, I did my spell and now bam, it's done. You got to work towards that spell. They're not done once we release them. There's still oftentimes work that comes within that spell that needs to be done, whether it's internal work on yourself and creating new ways of being, new behaviors, new ways of reacting to the world and yourself and to those you love and your friends, all that stuff, people you hate even. It's not just, boom, I let it go. It's going to come back and be done. If only it would, sometimes it is that simple. Sometimes it is. A great many times spells do require more nourishment, more nurturing, more intent and emotion to grow into what you want it to be. And you can, especially if they're long-term goals. Long-term spell work, it takes direction, it takes emotion, it takes sustained intent and belief that this is going to blossom, for lack of a better word, to be fruitful, to bear fruit, to blossom in your life. Okay. Enough on spell work, and I'll be back with number 16. Bye-bye.